This is the first video in a series of videos on how to play Treasuarrrr. Treasuarrrr is a card game, board game hybrid set on the island, represented by this board. Players will control champions who can move around the island and collect the various artifacts around the island in order to score them for victory points in the middle of the board. They will do this by manipulating a deck of cards in a typical card game fashion, all of which have various unique effects. In order to set up a game, you don't need to do too many things. The first thing is that everyone should have a deck of cards. There are various ways of creating a deck of cards. This will be covered in a future video. For now, I just have a very simple example deck. Each player needs something to represent their character, and something to represent their victory points. Additionally, one artifact of each colour is placed around the board in conveniently coloured slots, and some tentacle tokens are placed into the board in these 3 slots. There is a new version of the board being worked on which shows these a bit more clearly. Each player will then draw 6 cards from their deck to be their starting hand. You do not replace any of these cards in Treasuarrrr, this is just your starting hand. Every card is going to be able to be played in multiple different ways, and so this is okay, really. So now we're going to have a brief discussion of the board itself. The center tile, in which this character currently is called the tavern. The tavern is not a part of the main board, it is the center part in which people can score their artifacts. While you're in the tavern, you're not allowed to fight other players, you can't deal damage to anyone, and you can't try and deal damage to things that are outside the tavern either. It's strictly not allowed. Whenever you enter the tavern, if you have a number of artifacts, you will score victory points depending on the number of artifacts you had. In this case, I had 2 artifacts, and that will score me 3 victory points. The more artifacts you score, the more points you get. This will be discussed in a bit more detail in another video. When you score your artifacts, they return to their spawn points, so other players can potentially pick them up. Your intention is to get to 15 victory points by scoring like this. You'll win the game if you enter the tavern, score at least 1 artifact, and are put above 15 victory points. Or 2 15 victory points. The board is broken up into 6 of these segments. Each segment has a name written above it, which refers to the colour of the artifact that goes there, and one of the 6 factions of the game. In between them are these blue tiles here. These are referred to as the 7th segment. They do not count as being a part of any other segment, and they occasionally show up on cards, so it's important to know what they are. That's all for this introduction video. I'm probably going to re-record some of this, but editing software will hopefully work its magic. The next video we'll be talking about the actual gameplay loop of the game and what you will do during your turns.